Welcome, listeners. I'm so excited to have Tara Jaye Frank with us. I have followed Tara for years, and she is a amazing workplace culture strategist and inclusive leadership expert. She has been a force in educating thousands of Fortune 500 executives in all sorts of different industries. And she founded Waymakers Change Group. She spent 21 years of her career at Hallmark, actually, before becoming an entrepreneur. And she was in multiple executive roles, like vice president of creative writing and editorial. She worked with the Maya Angelou, which is an amazing story in her new book. And her new book is You Are Before the World: Lessons on Doing Good Without Being Undone. Thanks, Tara, so much. First of all, thanks for the read. I read it cover to cover last night, and I felt like you were speaking to me, like in my book review. It's like, I have to make sure other people find this. It's like, I felt so seen and heard in the book. And you're just so generous and vulnerable with your own personal story. So, listeners, it's part memoir, part leadership lessons, part what to do next with this DEI mess. So Tara, I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Julie. I appreciate the invitation and also those kind words about You Are Before the World. It is definitely a boxless book, as my friend Lisa Hurley called it. A little bit more experience and less prescription. So I'm glad that you dove into the experience and that you enjoyed it. And this is not the first time I've heard someone say they read it cover to cover in one day, which is a huge compliment. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and you're so generous with your life story because listeners, if you followed Tara, Waymakers is like leadership principles, more of a DEI book a few years ago. And when you went to write this book, it was, probably a continuation of that effort. And then of course, we know what happened with the election and all the fallout. It's like, maybe there's a different book in me. And you had this like really pivotal moment with a car service driver. Was it right, Tara?
Yes,
Socrates.
a grocery delivery man. Actually, and it's interesting. I was writing another business book, which was more of a like a double click on one of the key principles in the Waymakers around the power of relationships to unlock opportunity. And it was called Bridge, and I had written 40,000 words, and it was around late summer that I honestly started to feel 2024, that I started to feel like this isn't the book I need to write next, and it kind of got stuck in me. So yeah, November, the day after the election, I flew to Florida. We had planned like an author's weekend. That was a very difficult morning for me. I know it was also a difficult morning for you. And I didn't necessarily want to go to the airport or be in a tuna can around a bunch of people. I didn't want any of that. I kind of wanted to be alone. Um, but I got to the location where we were going to meet, which is actually one of our homes, and I didn't want to go to the grocery store, so I ordered groceries online on an app. And the delivery driver's name came up, and it said Socrates, and I kind of chuckled to myself. I was like,
Really?
because
The
because the
Socrates?
right, exactly. I'm like, how did he know? Because I was in this fog, right? And I'm looking at this name. So he shows up and he's this brown skinned man with this long, like curly, dark hair. Like it was a very thing. And
Not
he,
exactly what you were
I'm like,
expecting.
and so he walks up and I say, Socrates, huh? And he said, name my parents gave me. And I said, well, I could use a little philosophy right about now.
Mhm.
And he looked at me very sincerely and said, about what? And I was thinking, sir, like, do you know what day it is? Like, what is happening? And I said, the world. And he looked at me and he said, you are before the world.
Mhm.
And then he set the groceries down and he walked away.
Mhm.
And I stood there for what felt like forever, but was probably a minute, just thinking about everything that phrase meant to me on that day in that moment. And the book really kind of accelerated from there.
Yeah. Yeah, and Tara, yeah, I think that phrase can land so many different ways for people. Of
Yeah.
course, in the turmoil of knowing, yeah, I know when I woke up that morning, I was physically sick, like as soon as I found out what was happening, just because we both knew what was going to happen to
Yes.
businesses and some hard choices we were going to have to make. As much as I wanted to be optimistic, we had the blueprint. We knew where it was
Right.
going to go.
Right.
And it was hard. I really related to your experience of going to the airport and being like, how many people here just think wildly differently than me? Am I safe here? And
Yes.
my first experience in public was like completely jarring. I live in a state where flip of a coin, you don't know.
Right. Right.
And
I had a
and just
lot of was it you moments when I
yeah,
was in the airport that
yeah.
next day. And not that I wanted to feel that way. I didn't. Um, but I felt unprotected.
hmm Yeah. 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 And where I've gone in my mind, and I think your book offers a reframe to this is so you don't care about people? You clearly don't care about anyone else but yourself, is where I want to go. And not a helpful thought pattern if we're going to bridge, use your
Right.
word, right? Can't write people off. If people feel this way, we've got to find some common ground. We've got to find a way. And I think what your book really speaks to through your own personal story is how you've found your way through hard circumstances in every part of your life, from your childhood, to your divorce, to
Hmm.
now, being a mom of six kids and an empty nester, which that part at the end, Tara, I made it till the end without crying. And that part about being in
Oh,
those empty rooms, like, no, they can't leave.
girl, the empty rooms. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Girl,
Yeah.
I can't. I
It's
just can't.
I know. It's a lot. But here's the other thing I really wanted to try to convey in You Are Before the World. And that is, you said how you found your way. And I would say how I am finding my way. Because, people always say this is a journey. And of course, we get tired of hearing that. It's so cliche. But the truth of the human experience is you have highs and lows. You have moments where everything seems clear to you, where you know the right next step to take, where you feel good about the information you have to make decisions, the decisions you are making, the decisions you have made. And then you have other moments where you feel less sure. Um, and I have those moments all the time. And so You Are Before the World, writing it and putting it into the world for me was a different kind of tool. I wanted it to be grounding for
Mhm.
people. I wanted it to be something people could return to when they felt less sure, as a reminder of what's possible. And more important, a reminder that we have to stabilize ourselves. We
Mhm.
have to settle ourselves. We have to care for ourselves. We have to be clear about what matters to us, because that stable ground is really the only place from which we can soar, from which we can change the world, if you will. So that is really the heart of the book, but also very much to let people know that this humanity thing is volatile. You know what I mean? Like there is no checking the box. There is no finishing until you are in fact finished.
Yeah. No. And it's a wild ride right now, and
Yeah.
it's easy to be doomsday. And I think, listeners, we've talked about this like Aiko. I know you're a Aiko Bethea fan as well. We had her on a few weeks
Yeah.
ago, and her new book about values, like Aiko was so kind because she's such a brilliant coach, just like coached me on my values, and I've actually put them like right behind me up there,
Oh, I
fairness
love
and
it.
justice.
Yes.
Like everything in the world is against my values right now. It just I think
Yeah.
what your book helps do is like our nervous systems are so jarred. And for me, when I have a flip out moment, which feels like it happens daily anymore, is
Mhm.
fairness and justice, like that it's being activated
Yeah.
and you're having a visceral reaction to your values, feeling that they're being violated. And so,
Yes.
not that that helps remedy anything in the short term, but from your book, really grounding yourself in who you are first, right? And having
Mhm.
firm boundaries around that. Um, and this is the part, Tara, I think is so nuanced in your book, is you have some hard conversations with folks that aren't aligned with your values, but you're
Right.
still able to sit in it with them. And I'm just curious if you'd offer, I know you work a lot with corporate executives on those hard
Oh,
conversations. Like,
oh, yes, I do.
how do you do it? Like, how do you hold space for somebody that's like so different?
You know, first I'll say it's hard. Um, Sometimes, this sounds kind of funny, but I have clients who say things like, I don't know what magic, you know, you're using, or you just have a gift for XYZ. Like, it's no less difficult for me to hold space for conversations and people that feel like an affront, to who I am. But I simply get curious.
Yeah.
I have become good at that momentary emotional detachment, meaning like I'm eye to eye with someone who may or may not see the world as I do, who may or may not value the same things I value. This conversation is not about me. This moment is not about me. My values are not at risk because I am engaging, right? They are
Hmm.
they are firm, they are strong, they are untouchable as far as I'm concerned. Um, and then I just get curious, right? So that for me is always the posture. I ask more questions. I try to get underneath the thing. I do believe that a lot of what we're seeing and experiencing, that there's something way under the vitriol.
Hmm.
There's something under the seeming ease with which they discard people. There is something underneath that. And I endeavor to understand what that is because I am first insatiably curious about people, about humanity, about our emotional and psychological lives. And so I almost
Hmm.
kind of posture myself as a learner in that moment,
Hmm.
versus kind of the recipient of disdain, which, you know, when you feel that way, you really just want to crawl into a hole. And I've had those moments. I have those moments. But when I'm
Hmm.
working, especially, and even in those weeks after the election when I wasn't working, I decided I could only survive if I sought to discover what makes other people human.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I
I love
cannot be surrounded by monsters every day, all day.
I know.
I
I
can't
really
do
try to
that.
watch my language. Like, that person's a maniac. Like, I've been
Right.
using, and that's a nice word
Yeah.
sometimes.
I mean, as you know, because you read the book, I have those moments. My husband, especially in 2016, people will not have read the book yet. He called me angry mommy. Like
Hmm.
every day, the news would be on, and
Hmm.
who would say a thing. It didn't even matter what thing. He would say a thing, and I would lose my what
Yeah. Yeah.
every day, all day. And I'm just like, wait a minute.
Hmm.
I am allowing this external force to change who I am as a person. And I don't want to give anyone that.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the best, there's a couple tips that I think it's the former Surgeon General, Vivek is his first name, his last name's
Yeah.
escaping me right now, but of course under the Obama administration. And he said two things that really helped is like, one, you don't need a ton of news sources. Like you don't need like not just one, right? We know the danger of that, but like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
couple of
Yeah.
trusted news sources that do their
Hmm.
best to like stay unbiased. And you listeners, you can decipher what that is for you, but have a couple different angles on the news and just spend a short amount of time catching up. And whether that's the evening for you, midday for you, for me, it's in the morning. I try not to get too triggered, but scroll
Yeah.
through, I'm informed.
Yeah.
That is it for the day. No
Me
breaking
too.
news alerts, no social media, like no
Yep.
CNN or, whatever station in the background. Like it's just too triggering, Tara, because I felt the
Yeah.
same way. I was getting angry, like that cortisol, stress hormone, like
Yeah.
response to your nervous system, like every hour just being like tap, 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 tap. And then it just overwhelms you and you feel like you can't do anything. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of their strategy. Like, I'm not going to let that
It
work.
is. It is. And that is the part that I came to fully appreciate, that this cortisol and this, kind of poke,
Hmm.
poke, poke is part of how they keep you tuned in, right? They just kind of
Hmm.
suck you in, and then you end up, especially with CNN back in the day, you end up watching it for hours when they really just said three things
Yeah. The same thing
fif-
over and over again with
50
different people.
times each. And once I really accepted that as truth, like, they're trying to rope me in and keep me roped in, it was easier to cut that tie. So yeah, like you, I get no news alerts. I don't get any of that stuff sent to me. I
Hmm.
retrieve the news when I feel I can take it in. And
Hmm.
that may be different every day for me. Sometimes it's in the evening, sometimes it's in the morning. Um, I go get it, right? And I catch up and then I move along.
Yeah.
And part of this experience too of being before the world, putting yourself before the world, it's not it's not easy because there's always a contingent that believes you should be up to the minute on every single thing that's happening, every single horrible thing that's happening. There's always a
Hmm.
contingent that believes you should be speaking about every horrible thing that's happening all day long, who believes that if you're not, in the proverbial streets or literal streets every moment of every day, that you are somehow abdicating your responsibility. And what I realized in my own body, in my own life, is that if I lived that way, I would not live long. I am such a sensitive being, and I think a lot of people are, and a lot of people who do DEI work are, right? Very compassionate, very caring, very feeling human beings. That if I were to move in that way, because I felt compelled to, because I felt that people would believe I do not care if I don't,
Yeah.
that I would come apart at the seams. And then what good could I be?
Yeah.
That is really the one of the huge insights that I had as I was writing the book, right?
Hmm. Well, and I think you draw from your own personal experiences, not just the setback of the election, but also, challenges you've went through, like real
Yeah,
human gritty stuff, and you've been
right.
through so much to build that resilience muscle. So I'm curious, like as you were reflecting on those experiences with your father, with
Mm-hmm.
the divorce, like with the business pivot, leaving Hallmark. I
Yes.
mean, there's so many I call them pivot points in
Yeah,
your
yeah, of course
life
you do.
story. But as you go through those pivots, like what would you offer? I know so many people. I know, like, I want to change. Like, I want to do something different, but I can't do what Tara did. Like, I'm not that resilient. I'm not that bold. Like, what would you offer in reflecting on those?
Yeah, there are a lot of really practical things, nuggets that I drop in the book on purpose. I think about life in a very practical way. Um, so I tried to offer those things. I mean, one, during the most difficult times in my life, I relied heavily on routine.
Yeah.
So I created, you know, uh, caring, loving,
Mm.
compassionate routines for myself that didn't require any thinking.
Yeah.
So every morning I would get up and do the same thing. I would listen to the same playlist. I would get ready in the same order.
Mm.
I would do the same things every morning and every night. And that really helped me because there were things I didn't have to think about and that I could just do. And I know that they calmed me down. I know they anchored me. I know they helped me reconnect to myself. So, one, routine is really important. And I know for some of us, routine is kind of difficult, but if you make it rote enough,
I love that.
it can carry you through really difficult moments. And when I was going through my divorce, that was honestly the thing that saved me. People say a lot of things like, well, pray and, go to the spa. Like they say all these things. That's not what saved me. The routine saved me during
Mhm.
that particular dark time. The other things I've learned since is, you know, to mind my business. I talk about that in the book. Learning to mind my business has been really important. What I mean by that is, as a Virgo and also an
I have a
empath,
Virgo too.
are you?
Yeah.
You know what? I should have known that. Yes, as a Virgo and an empath, um, and a teacher, really, because that's
Mhm.
how I think about the work that I do.
Yep.
I was always trying to solve everybody's problems.
Oh,
Somebody
I
would
love
say
a
they were
problem to
having a
solve,
hard
Tara.
time. Oh
Oh,
my God, they were having a hard time.
yes.
I'm like, hard time? Me, Tara. You know what I mean? Like
I got
I'm
this.
jumping in the arena. I'm calling the people. I'm connecting the dots. Like all of these things are happening.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I don't help anymore. It doesn't mean I don't care. But I have stopped just automatically, without request, without demand, without requirement. I have stopped jumping into the deep end of other people's pools
Yep.
and instead allowing myself to observe, to offer again, care and empathy without feeling like I have to be the person to fix it. Connected to that, I have stopped allowing people to make their problem my problem and instead believe in their generative power. I believe that you can think this through. I believe you can solve this problem, that you can rise to this particular occasion. That has been difficult for me because I hate watching people struggle. It is really hard to watch people struggle, but I've reframed that. I'm watching people learn. I'm watching people build
Oh,
confidence in their own generative power. I'm
I
watching
love
people find their way, right? And
that.
that is different and that is hard, especially when it comes to my young adult children. It is a struggle bus.
Mhm.
But I am learning. And the last thing I will say, just as a practical matter, and this has probably been the biggest change for me professionally and the most freeing. I stopped getting ready for things that are not ready for me.
Ooh. Oh, say that again, Tara. That's so good.
I stopped getting ready for things that are not ready for me. And if you don't
Oh,
mind, I'd like to share just like a really tangible example of this. Back to
please.
my Virgo, probably, and a little bit of anxiety mixed in. I used to be like the ultimate contingency planner. So I'll give you an example. I have a new client, possibly, right? A prospective client, and we're going to talk about scope. And I am going to gen up three possible scenarios that
Mhm.
they might potentially want. And so I'm going to spend all this time, the 2 weeks before, creating all these possible scenarios so that when we talk, I can be like, bam, bam, bam. Okay. What I learned over time is that whenever I got ready for things that were not ready for me, meaning I didn't have enough information, I didn't have
Mhm.
yet the right person, I didn't have, right, all of that. Um, I would get with someone and they'd essentially say, well, A is interesting, B is interesting, C is interesting, but what I really want is D. And then I would be starting again anyway. So what did I do? I wasted all that time. I wasted all that energy. I wasted all that creativity getting ready for something that was not ready for me. I didn't have the information I needed, right? I wasn't sure yet of the scope. I didn't know what the budget was, like all of this. And so now I might, wake up on a random Tuesday and I will ask myself, have I done everything I can and should do
Mhm.
today? Like
Mhm.
literally, have I gotten ready for everything that is ready for me? And if the answer is yes, I will do whatever the heck I want on that Tuesday. I won't pre work anymore,
Yeah.
right? Because to
That's so
me,
good.
I now know that that is a waste.
Yep.
So it has opened up so much space for me professionally and a great deal of time and it's less stressful, right?
That's
And
deeply
that also
nice.
requires trusting yourself to meet the moment, which I do. I mean, I do trust myself to meet the moment. So why am I doing all of this like,
Hmm.
advanced work that may or may not be right?
Yeah.
So that's been huge for me.
And then you just get frustrated, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, see, they don't care. See, they're not ready. Like, see,
Yeah,
why this work's pointless. Like, been there.
right. Yeah, all of that, all of that. So those are a few of the things that I'm really kind of focusing on. And
I
I'm
like the
also learning to
routine.
allow myself my feelings
Yeah.
because I have hard days where the weight of the world and everything that's happening feels really just sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And what I appreciated about your story and some of the strategies you just shared is you've lived it. Like you've applied those principles in your own learning process, and we all can if we want to,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
can't want it for somebody else. And that's the part that as an empath, as a highly anxious person that I struggle with the most. Or like how I've chosen to think about it is now teaching in higher ed. I teach, 20 something year olds about leadership and business. It's like,
right.
so then I get in my head, like in the fall, I'll have like close to 1,000 students, and it's like,
It's
okay, I have
amazing.
got to make them care about
Yeah.
people at work. And it's like, okay, Julie, what are you doing? Like, that's not possible. Like, that is not a feasible goal. And so it's just, yeah, meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
We always say that in DEI work, like meet them where they're at. There's a lot of
Yeah.
finance folks that don't see the value of leadership, and I'm sure they will
Yeah.
hopefully at some point, but I can't be responsible for that.
Yeah.
But maybe I can still make a difference and shift, little shifts in perspective. So those
Yeah.
small wins, you never know how those dominoes are going to fall
And I'm
later.
sure you do. I think of my work more as an invitation.
Hmm.
And so I invite people to think differently about what's possible,
Yeah.
but they get to choose
Yeah.
whether or not to accept my invitation.
Yep. Ah, I love that. And what I found in research for my last book about people with power and allyship is they're waiting for an invitation. They don't think that they're supposed to be a part of this conversation. And we're still there. As many invitations as I know you and I have, and our
Yeah.
collaborators and folks in our space have given, like a message, the invitation was not received. So,
Right. I mean, yeah. But, I will say on that note, and I think this is really important, we we designed a diagnostic, an employee experience diagnostic that is really kind of at that level, that instructive experience level, where once we get on the other side and do the analysis, we can tell people, look, this is how these experiences are impacting your business through retention and attraction and also innovation and output. And these are the specific experiences that if you change them, if you transform them, you're going to improve these business scores. What's important in our analysis and what we're finding is that it's really not just because I'll say we don't make assumptions about the control group anymore. We did in the very beginning, we don't anymore. What we're learning is that a lot of people are feeling disconnected. A lot of people are feeling less cared about. A lot of
mhm.
people are feeling this, are having these experiences that essentially um, are kind of compromising their relationship with their employer. And I look at that and I say, okay, no matter who you are or where you are, there is something here. There is a dial that can be turned up for
Mhm.
you. There is a lever that can be pulled, right? And that's important to recognize that everyone has to be part of the solution. I believe
Mhm.
if you mend the deepest wound, you heal the body. For me, that means really digging deep on people who are having the most difficult experience, and
Mhm.
that's often Black women, to be frank, people with
Sure.
disabilities and LGBT people, based on my data. And so we dig deep with them to understand that experience. But once we start developing solutions, everyone has to be part of that conversation, or
Yeah.
we can't be surprised on the other end that people feel detached from the work. So I'm
I
learning
love
that
that.
in a very real way, through our data, through our research.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. Yeah, one of the
Mhm.
chapters that really stuck out to me was people before systems. And
Yeah.
there's so much conversation in our space. Is it people, individual efforts first? Is it systems efforts first? I've always thought it's a
Yeah.
both and. And you
It
argue that
is.
point greatly in this chapter is hey, yeah, we've got to diagnose what the disconnect is in that employee experience, and it's a collective problem for all of us. So it's not about Joe getting better at being a manager, it's about all of us adopting principles and strategies and values
Yes.
that align with the behavior
Yes.
we'd expect to improve that experience. And
That's right. You have to standardize those things, right? And then monitor it and hold people accountable for
yeah,
abiding by your values and your standards.
yep,
Without that, everyone's just leading according to their own values and their own standards, and everything is up for interpretation. And as you well know, when we do that, we create pockets of
yep,
dis-ease, we create pockets of toxicity.
yep, yep, yeah. And we normalize it. If it's okay for Joe, it's okay for everybody else. And so
100%.
having the
Yes.
accountability.
I mean,
Ah,
we're living that right now, the
right. Yeah.
normalization of foolery.
I do worry for this young generation. Is like, if that's the model of leadership you're seeing, I am concerned. We
Yeah.
can learn from bad leaders, but it's a lot.
Yeah, but it's the normalization that is so
Yes.
dangerous, right? Any one of
Yeah.
us can look at something that's not great and be like, oh, I want to be less of that. But when you see it everywhere and people are acting like it's just the way, um, yeah, that's when you get in trouble.
Yep. 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 Well, I know you're working with strategic partners that are staying the course with inclusion work, and we're
Yeah,
seeing data every day that people are doing the work just in more embedded ways, which, I always knew was the right way. And so there is a
that's right.
future to this work. It's more strategic, it's more problem solving, it's more diagnostic.
Yep.
I'd love, like, just if there's something we haven't talked about in this conversation that you'd love to leave our listeners with, or definitely share more about, your business and ways to connect as well.
Yeah, I will share this because this is kind of the most interesting thing I'm learning in our research right now, that so many companies are hyper focused, understandably, on technology right now, on the business landscape. They're transforming their business to be more efficient, to be more profitable. There are a lot of headwinds on business. Like, I get all of that. And they are, by extension, deprioritizing some people work a little bit.
Mm.
And
Yep.
not even, I'm not even talking about the dramatic decisions, as in, like, who cares about people? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a deprioritization. Like,
Yeah.
we'll get to the culture stuff later, we'll get to the people stuff later. And what I'm learning is that that really needs to be, not reversed, but if there were ever a time for parallel pathing, the time is now.
Mhm.
There are organizations on the verge of what I am beginning to call a culture depression, where the people are starting to feel that they matter less. The people are starting to feel overworked. The people feel undervalued. The people feel overwhelmed by what's happening in the macro climate. All that downward pressure is thinking them, which makes it even more important that we bolster people, that we lift them up, right? It requires more force to lift people up when the downward pressure is sinking them.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it takes more energy to climb out of a hole,
Mhm. Yeah. I fall in
than
it.
it
Yeah.
does
Yeah. That's a
to,
really great
right,
point.
than it does to avoid falling in it.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm watching right now. So
Mm.
the call there really is, no, it can't wait until you figure all this business stuff out. Um, they've got to invest in it and really focus on it now in a meaningful way, so they don't find themselves really underwater in only like 6 months to a year. What I'm seeing, it's not even like, oh, in 5 years, you're going to be in trouble. Nope. The knock is certainly
Mhm.
there. So I'll share that. But yeah, we do a lot of that work. We do the diagnostic work. We also do the work resulting from the diagnostic, right? These are the leadership skills and behaviors people need to learn and exercise in order to kind of transform this. We also do systems work. So, really, just trying through the methodology to pull the thread all the way through and help companies do the things that matter. So, that's our focus right now at the Waymakers Change Group. Our website is twchg.com. And we love to have help companies that actually care about people and recognize that this is one of the very best investments they'll make. That is still true. Still true. Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that, Tara. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom
Thank
with us
you.
today. There's several quotes I'll be putting around my office as good reminders of this
Oh,
conversation. And just thank you. Thanks for being a
I
strong voice.
appreciate you so much. The invitation for sure. And then this beautiful conversation. Thank you for being you and continuing to do what you do.